Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Daniel Foster never imagined his life would turn into a nightmare in broad daylight. At 42, he'd built a solid reputation as the owner of Foster Classic Motors, a mechanic shop specializing in restoring classic cars right in the heart of Austin, Texas. His calloused hands knew every curve of a V8 engine and every secret of a 1960s manual transmission. He was a man of his word, straightforward, honest, someone who believed integrity mattered more than any fortune. Married for 15 years to Isabel, a high school literature teacher, Daniel had always been proud of the marriage they'd built. Isabel was brilliant, charismatic, and adored by her students. She had expressive brown eyes and a smile that still warmed his chest even after a decade and a half together, or at least that's how he'd felt until just a few months ago. The couple had a 13-year-old son, Noah, a smart and observant boy who'd inherited his father's passion for engines and his mother's sensitivity for literature. The Foster family's routine was predictable and comfortable. Daniel spent his days at the shop, Isabel taught and prepared lessons at night, and Noah split his time between school and helping his dad on weekends. They ate dinner together whenever possible, watched movies on Friday nights, and maintained a modest but satisfying social life. Isabel had kept close friendships since college: Rachel, a successful and perfectionist architect; Amy, a department store manager who was always upbeat; and Diane, a human resources consultant with a sharp sense of humor. The four women met regularly for brunches, wine nights, and occasionally organized girls' getaways they called self-care retreats. Daniel never minded these escapes. He trusted Isabel completely and thought it healthy for her to keep her own friendships and personal space. But over the past 5 months, something had changed. The shifts were subtle at first, almost imperceptible. Isabel started working unusually late, always mentioning new school projects that required evening meetings with other teachers. She bought new clothes, pieces more sophisticated than her usual teacher wardrobe. She swapped her usual light perfume for a more intense, expensive, seductive fragrance. Daniel also noticed she'd become emotionally distant, less interested in hearing about his day, less present during family dinners. Whenever he tried to start intimate conversations or asked about her activities, Isabel grew defensive and irritated, accusing him of being controlling or insecure. "Don't you trust me?" she'd snap back with an aggression that didn't match who she'd always been. Daniel would back off, confused, wondering if he really was being irrational. One Thursday night in October, as they ate dinner, Isabel casually announced she'd be spending the coming weekend at a wellness retreat in Fredericksburg with Rachel, Amy, and Diane. "It's our annual renewal ritual," she explained, absently stirring her salad. "Yoga, meditation, massages, that sort of thing. I need to de-stress a bit." Noah barely looked up from his plate, used to his mother's occasional trips. But Daniel felt something different this time. There was something in the way Isabel avoided his gaze as she spoke, the haste with which she changed the subject, the slight tremor in her hands as she reached for her water glass. A chill ran down his spine, a deep, unsettling intuition he couldn't ignore. That night, after Isabel and Noah went to bed, Daniel stayed awake in the living room, staring at the ceiling, trying to sort through his thoughts. He wasn't the type to jump to unfounded suspicions or irrational jealousy, but the feeling that something was terribly wrong was overwhelming. All the pieces started clicking into place in his mind: the late arrivals, the new perfume, the emotional distance, the excessive defensiveness. Deep down, he knew. His heart already knew. But his mind still resisted, clinging to the marriage he'd believed in for 15 years. On Friday morning, after Isabel left for work and Noah caught the school bus, Daniel made a decision. He wasn't going to ignore this gut feeling. Sitting at his small office in the back of the shop, he searched for private investigators in Austin. After reading reviews and comparing services, he called Marcus Chen, a private investigator with an excellent reputation and years of experience handling infidelity cases. The conversation was direct. Daniel explained his suspicions, mentioned the upcoming weekend retreat, and requested full surveillance. Marcus listened carefully, asked specific questions about schedules and locations, and accepted the case. "I'll document everything," Marcus assured him professionally. "Photos, videos, locations. If something's going on, you'll know." The weekend arrived. On Friday afternoon, Isabel left home with a small bag, saying quick goodbyes to Daniel and Noah. "I'll be back Sunday night," she said cheerfully. "Take care of yourselves." Daniel waved from the doorway, his stomach in knots. He spent the weekend trying to maintain normalcy for Noah, taking him to the movies on Saturday and helping with a science project on Sunday. But his mind was constantly elsewhere, imagining what Marcus was uncovering, dreading what the cameras were capturing. Sunday night at 7, Daniel's phone rang. It was Marcus. "You need to come to my office now," the detective's voice sounded serious, almost troubled. "It's important we go over this in person." Daniel felt his blood run cold. He told Noah he needed to handle something urgent at work, promised to be back soon, and drove to Marcus's downtown Austin office, his palms sweating on the wheel. When he arrived, Marcus greeted him with a grim expression. "Sit down, Daniel. You need to prepare yourself. What I'm about to show you is complicated." Marcus opened a thick file on the desk and began displaying photos on his laptop. The first images showed Isabel leaving Austin on Friday, but not headed toward Fredericksburg. She'd driven south toward San Antonio. Marcus explained he'd followed at a safe distance and watched Isabel meet Rachel, Amy, and Diane at a pre-arranged meeting spot. From there, the four women had traveled together to a secluded, luxurious private ranch on the outskirts of San Antonio, surrounded by acres of private land. What came next shattered Daniel completely. The photos documented everything in painful detail. Isabel was with a man Marcus identified as Patrick Donnelly, 44, a business consultant, married, father of 3. The images showed candlelit romantic dinners on the ranch's veranda, hand-in-hand walks through the gardens, intimate embraces, prolonged kisses. One photo captured Isabel and Patrick entering one of the ranch's private cabins on Friday night. But it wasn't just Isabel. Rachel was with a younger golf instructor, laughing as he wrapped his arms around her waist. Amy appeared with a local musician with long hair, the two dancing too close to the sound of a guitar. Diane was with an insurance broker, sharing an expensive bottle of wine under the stars. "All 4 of them," Daniel murmured, stunned. "They're all cheating on their husbands?" Marcus nodded gravely. "But there's more," he said, opening another folder. The detective explained that, using directional listening equipment within legal limits, he'd captured conversations between the women that revealed the full scope of their scheme. The 4 had been having extramarital affairs for over a year. They'd created a shared financial fund to cover expenses for their meetups, hotels, gifts, meals. They'd developed an elaborate rotating system of alibis. Whenever one needed to meet her lover, the other 3 provided cover, crafting consistent stories and even posting old photos on social media to fake group outings that never happened. They maintained a shared digital calendar to sync their getaways, ensuring they could justify simultaneous absences as legitimate group events. Marcus showed screenshots of a secret messaging group he'd accessed through one of their momentarily unlocked phones. The messages were devastating. The 4 women shared intimate details of their affairs, exchanged tips on hiding evidence, and laughed at their husband's suspicions. One message from Isabel read, "Daniel asked again about my new perfume. Told him a student gave it to me. He bought it, poor guy." Emoji laughter followed. Another message from Rachel said, "My husband doesn't suspect a thing. We're way too good at this." Diane replied, "As long as we cover for each other, we're safe." Daniel felt nauseous. It wasn't just Isabel's betrayal, it was the coldness, the organization, the veiled contempt for him and the other husbands. They'd turned infidelity into a collective project, an operation complete with planning, budgeting, and concealment strategies. Marcus printed copies of everything: photos, conversation transcripts, GPS vehicle logs, and financial records showing their shared fund used to pay for the ranch. "You've got everything you need here," Marcus said seriously. "I'm sorry, Daniel." Daniel returned home in shock. He hid the dossier in his car trunk and walked inside, trying to appear normal. Noah was already asleep. Daniel went to his son's room, watched the boy sleeping peacefully, and felt a crushing wave of sadness. How would he explain this to him? How would he protect him from what was about to happen? Daniel spent hours in the living room, staring at the front door, waiting. His mind raced with anger, pain, and disbelief. Isabel came home at 10:30 that night, radiant and relaxed. She walked through the door with her travel bag, smiling. "Hey, love," she said cheerfully. The retreat was amazing. The meditations were transformative. "I feel renewed." Daniel sat in the dim kitchen light, unlit. He didn't respond to her greeting. Isabel sensed something was off. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Daniel turned on the kitchen light, revealing the open dossier on the counter. The photos were laid out in chronological order, Isabel and Patrick dining, walking, kissing, entering the cabin. "So," Daniel said with an icy calm that even startled him, "how was the retreat? Or should I say, how was the ranch in San Antonio?" Isabel went completely pale, frozen in the kitchen doorway. Her bag slipped from her hand and hit the floor. "Daniel, she began, but he interrupted, tossing the photos one by one onto the counter. "This is you and Patrick Donnelly. Business consultant. Married. 3 kids. This is you entering the cabin with him Friday night. This is Rachel with the golf instructor. This is Amy with the musician. This is Diane with the insurance broker. I've got photos of all of you." Isabel started visibly trembling. Tears welled in her eyes, but Daniel felt not a drop of compassion. "How did you?" she whispered. "How did I find out?" Daniel finished, his voice heavy with bitter sarcasm. "I hired a private investigator. A good one, I might add. He followed you all weekend and documented everything. But that's not all." He opened another folder, revealing the screenshots from their secret group chat. "I know everything, Isabel. I know about the scheme you 4 cooked up. I know about your shared fund. I know about the shared calendar. I know about your rotating alibis. I know about the messages where you laugh at me and the other husbands." Daniel bought it, poor guy. "Those were your exact words, weren't they?" Isabel collapsed. She leaned against the wall, sobbing, and tried to move toward him. "Daniel, please let me explain. It's not what you think." He stepped back, raising his hand in a stop gesture. "Not what I think? Then tell me, Isabel, what exactly am I supposed to think when I see photos of my wife cheating with another man? When I read messages where she laughs in my face? When I find out she and her friends created a damn infidelity business?" She cried harder, trying to speak through sobs. "It was a mistake. Just a phase. Patrick means nothing. I still love you. I love our family." Daniel let out a cold, humorless laugh. "You love me? You ran a professional-level betrayal operation for over a year. You 4 formed a criminal partnership of deception. You had a budget, strategic planning, encrypted communication. You should start a consulting firm on how to destroy marriages. And now you tell me you love me?" Isabel fell to her knees, pleading. "Daniel, please. Think of Noah. Think of our family. Don't destroy everything over one mistake." Mentioning his son ignited something in Daniel he'd been trying to control. "Think of Noah," he exploded, slamming his fist hard enough on the counter to make the photos jump. "You have the nerve to mention our son? Did you think of Noah when you were lying to him about where you were going? When you were spending money that should have gone toward his college fund on trysts with your lover? When you were laughing at me in those messages while he slept innocently in this house? Isabel had no answers. She just sobbed, curled up on the kitchen floor. Daniel continued, his voice shaking with contained fury. And don't even come at me with that, think of the kids nonsense, because I'm sure Rachel, Amy, and Diane have families too. And every husband you've deceived has a life, feelings, a right to know the truth. That's when Daniel revealed the second part of his plan. Tomorrow morning, he said coldly, I'm sending complete copies of this dossier to Rachel's husband, Amy's husband, Diane's husband, and Patrick Donnelly's wife. I'm also sending it to the partners of the other lovers we've identified. You built this network together. Now you'll watch it fall apart together too. The horror on Isabel's face was absolute. No. Daniel, please don't do this. You'll destroy entire families. You'll ruin innocent lives. He leaned closer, eyes burning. Innocent lives? Like me? Like the other spouses being deceived right this moment? You didn't think of them when you created your little lie club. I won't let other men suffer what I'm suffering while their wives laugh behind their backs. Isabel tried to argue, pleaded, made desperate promises of change, therapy, anything. But Daniel was past reconciliation. He grabbed a pillow and blanket from the closet. I'll sleep on the couch. Tomorrow, you start looking for an apartment. I want you out of this house by the end of the week. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay staring at the living room ceiling, processing 15 years of marriage now revealed, at least for the past year, as a farce. On Monday morning, after dropping Noah off at school without revealing anything to the boy, Daniel kept his word. He sent detailed emails with complete copies of Marcus Chen's dossier to everyone involved. The email was straightforward and factual, without drama. It simply said, I thought you should know the truth about what's happening in your marriage. Attached is full documentation. I'm sorry. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Rachel's husband, a successful dentist named Stephen, broke down emotionally upon seeing the photos. He called Daniel that same afternoon, his voice shattered, thanking him for revealing the truth, even though it was painful. Stephen filed for divorce the next day. Amy's husband, a firefighter named Kevin, was so shaken he requested a transfer to another city, unable to stay in Austin where everyone would eventually find out. Diane's husband, a corporate lawyer, hired one of the city's most aggressive divorce firms and launched a fierce legal battle for custody of their 2 children. Patrick Donnelly's wife, Catherine, discovered not only his affair but that Patrick had used their joint account funds to pay for the ranch and gifts for Isabel. Catherine initiated a bitter divorce that threatened to destroy Patrick's professional reputation in the business world. Discreet information about his conduct began leaking into corporate circles, and he lost key clients. The once inseparable group of 4 friends disintegrated into mutual accusations and hostility. Rachel called Isabel furiously, blaming her for starting all this years ago. Isabel shot back that Diane encouraged and organized the whole scheme. Amy simply blocked all 3 on every communication channel, refusing to speak to any of them. Their social media accounts, once full of happy group photos, were either deleted or made private. Veiled comments from friends and acquaintances began surfacing, showing rumors were spreading. Old friendships dissolved, and social invitations dried up. Daniel moved quickly with the divorce. Under Texas law, he filed on grounds of adultery, one of the few fault-based grounds still recognized in the state. With photographic evidence, financial documentation, and message transcripts, Daniel's case was airtight. His family law attorney secured favorable terms. Daniel received primary custody of Noah, with Isabel granted supervised visits initially until a more permanent custody agreement could be reached. The division of assets also favored Daniel. Foster Classic Motors, technically marital property built during the marriage, was appraised, and Daniel retained full ownership by compensating Isabel with other assets. The family home was listed for sale, with profits to be split, but Daniel had first right to buy out her share if he wanted to keep the house for Noah. Isabel lost more than her marriage. At the school where she taught, discreet rumors about her personal conduct began circulating among parents and administration. Though there were no formal accusations or professional code violations, the atmosphere became unbearable. Parents requested student transfers out of her classes, and colleagues kept their distance. Eventually, Isabel requested a transfer to another school in a different district, a move everyone understood but no one openly discussed. Daniel poured all his energy into Noah and rebuilding their lives. The first few weeks were the hardest. Noah quickly realized something was deeply wrong. Daniel decided to be honest with his son, tailoring the truth to his age without diving into sordid details. He explained that his mother had broken the trust of their marriage, that adults sometimes make serious mistakes, and that they'd need to adjust to a new reality. Noah responded with a mix of sadness, confusion, and surprising anger toward his mother. Daniel immediately sought family therapy to help his son process the separation in a healthy way. Father and son built a new routine. Daniel adjusted the shop's hours to be present for Noah's mornings and afternoons, driving him to and from school personally. They ate dinner together every night, openly discussing feelings, fears, and hopes. On weekends, they worked side by side at the shop, restoring a 1967 Mustang that Daniel had promised to give Noah when he turned 16. The project became therapeutic for them both, a symbol of rebuilding and continuity. Months passed. The divorce was finalized 6 months after the initial discovery. Daniel felt a mix of relief and melancholy as he signed the final papers. 15 years were officially over. But he didn't regret acting quickly, confronting Isabel right away, or exposing the truth. He'd protected himself and Noah from more months, or years, of deception. 2 years after the initial blow-up, Daniel was at a classic car show at the Travis County Expo Center. Foster Classic Motors had restored a 1963 Chevrolet Corvette on display, and Daniel walked the event answering questions from car enthusiasts. Noah, now 15 and taller than his father, worked alongside him, explaining technical restoration details with impressive knowledge. That's when Daniel saw her across the hall, Diane, one of Isabel's former friends. She stood alone, gazing absently at the cars on display. Their eyes met for a second. Diane recognized him immediately, and horror crossed her face. She turned abruptly and hurried out of the pavilion, nearly running. Noah sensed the tension. "Do you know her?" he asked. Daniel gave a slight nod. "She was your mom's friend. Part of the past." Noah didn't ask anything else, turning his attention back to a customer interested in the Corvette. Daniel watched Diane disappear into the crowd and felt absolutely nothing, no anger, no satisfaction, no sadness. Just complete indifference. That chapter was closed. He'd exposed the truth, faced the painful consequences, protected his son, and rebuilt his life with dignity and honesty. The web of betrayal that nearly destroyed his family was now just a distant memory, a nightmare he'd finally awakened from. That night, as Daniel and Noah drove home under the starry Texas sky, the boy asked, "Dad, are you happy?" Daniel paused for a moment, glancing at his son, who'd become his best friend and greatest motivation. "I'm rebuilding happiness, Noah. One day at a time. And with you by my side, I believe we'll get there." Noah smiled, and they drove on in comfortable silence, two survivors who'd found strength in each other and in the truth, however painful it may have been, that was always worth revealing. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.